Hi, how are you guys? So if you follow me or are part of my practice, you know how often I recommend bone broth, like all the time. And I often share a recipe with you guys, either as a client of mine or in my book I have a recipe, but I tweak the recipe a little bit, so I wanted to do a video for you so you could see exactly how I do it. So right here I have my fresh, whole, pastured chicken and some giblets, raw. I took it out of the package and I washed it down a little bit. And then here I have my stock pot full, all the way to the top, of water. This is not on any flame. And so what you do is you take your chicken and you're gonna put it inside your stock pot along with your giblets. Then, here's the key. You take 1 tablespoon of vinegar. I prefer to use apple cider vinegar. Where did my tablespoon go? Here it is. And you add this to the stock pot full of water. I'm going to show you a picture of it with the chicken in there. And you let that sit for 1 whole hour. So no flame whatsoever. Let me show you what this looks like. So we have our stock pot full of water with the chicken inside, and I added 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar. Again, there is no flame on. You let that sit for 1 hour. I'm going to set the timer on my microwave that I never use because those are gross, and I will let this sit for 1 hour. What happens is the vinegar actually helps get into the bones of the chicken and help start to break it down so that you get more nutrients from those bones. And hang tight. In about an hour I'll show you the next steps. Okay. Hi, I'm back. So my chicken has been sitting in the pot of water with the 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar. It's not on any heat, so that's been sitting there for 1 hour. And now I'm going to add in my veggies, my carrot, onion, and celery, my mirepoix, right into the pot. And then I'm going to cook this. I usually cook this down for about 8 to 12 hours. So considering, for me, I'm probably going to cook it about 8 hours this evening. And then I'll come back to you with more video at that point and tell you what I do next. So right now, all I do is do the whole chicken in the pot that's been sitting in the stock pot full of water and the apple cider vinegar. Now I just added my carrot, onion, and celery. And now I'm going to turn on the heat. Let it come to a boil and then turn it to a simmer and leave it there for about 8 hours. Again, you can cook it for 8 to 12 hours. The entire chicken will fall apart, and I'll come back to you with more at that point. Okay, hang tight. Okay, good morning. It's now been about 12 hours that I've been cooking this soup. So now for the most important part. You come in the end, you add parsley. I just take a few sprigs. It's already been washed. Put the parsley in. So, looks like this. Soup's been cooking all night. That's baby James in the background. Hi! Say good morning! And then I turn off the heat at that point and I let the parsley sit. So heat off. And the reason we do the parsley is that it really helps pull all the minerals and good for you nutrients out of the bone. So it kind of like solidifies the deal. So we'll recap. So we took the whole chicken, put it in this pot of water. It was raw chicken. I put in a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar. Then you let that sit unheated for 1 hour. And the vinegar kind of goes in, breaks up those bones. And then at that 1 hour mark, you turn on the heat. You add in your carrot, onion, and celery. And then you let it cook for anywhere from 8 to 12 hours. Sometimes I let it cook overnight, so sometimes it's a little longer than that. Then at the end, you add the parsley. Turn off the heat. Now I'm going to let it sit and cool, because I'm going to show you on the next segment of the video what I do that's different than what the recipe calls for that's in either my book or the one that I typically share. Okay, so we'll be back soon. Say goodbye, James. Say goodbye. Hi, we're back. We are showered up now too. So I basically have let the soup sit for about an hour or two and let it cool down after I added the parsley and turned off the heat. So now this is what's different. I then take my handy dandy little wooden spoon that is covered with some parsley from the soup, and I go through the soup and I basically pull out the bones. I've already started doing it, some of it, so here you see on the plate. But let's see if I can find some more for you. So here's one, and I'll take some of the skin or like any of the little dregs that are hanging out, and I basically just, my hands are clean, so I'm just kind of running through the soup, pulling out bones. And you know, this process, I kind of find it therapeutic. I know that might sound odd. You have to let the soup cool enough that you could actually do this though. So, but it probably takes about 10 minutes all in. Maybe less, maybe more, depending on how anal you are. You're probably not going to get all those tiny, tiny, tiny little bones, because remember, we put a whole chicken in here, and the entire thing, by cooking it for 12 hours, has fallen apart to all its pieces. I didn't have to break it up at all. It just completely falls apart. So then you just go through and you pull out the big bones. I do separate some broth out, and I'll use like a colander for a strainer so that no bones get into the broth, especially if I'm going to give it to the baby. And also, if I take some of this, which I often do, and give it to him, I do the same thing. I'll strain to make sure there's no bones, then I puree it a little bit. But for adults, like the tiny little bones, we can identify them in our teeth and spit them out. It's just the big ones you want to get rid of. So I think I've gotten rid of most all the bones. Let's do one last run through. Oh, here's one. And I just keep a plate right there on the side. That way it's easy. I just toss that all on the plate, and then I'm going to toss the plate's contents in the garbage. We've gotten all we need out of those bones. There's these little tiny ones. So like I said, this is a 10, max 15-minute process. You want to let the soup cool for about 2 hours before you do it. A slotted wooden spoon works well too. I just couldn't find mine. There we go. So once I'm finished doing this, oh, see, there's more bones. Now this process isn't going to work for everybody, but this is how I do it, and then that way we just eat soup instead of broth, which some people really like that idea. So instead of basically when you make it, like the way the recipe that I've shared in my book calls for, you make the soup and then you strain the whole thing, keep the chicken and use it for another dish. I just do it this way and keep the whole thing as a soup. So I keep all these first round of veggies in, and then, yeah, I think we're good here. And then what I do is I take this plate of new veggies. So on here I have, let's see, carrot, some radish, onion, celery, and fennel. I'm going to add this whole vat of veggies to this soup. And then you can also add some quinoa or some rice if you want, make it a little more hearty. Sometimes I do that. Today I'm not going to, but sometimes I'll add like a couple cups of rice or quinoa, and that's nice too. But I just add all of that and then put the lid back on, and I cook it for about another hour until those veggies are soft, and then voila, we have homemade chicken soup with well, homemade bone broth, I suppose, but in the form of chicken soup. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and my recommendation for broth is that you have 4 ounces every day is ideal, or at least 5 days a week. But you could do it in the form of the soup as well. And then even for babies, don't be afraid to give it to them. I've been giving James broth since 3 months, and I was just straining it and putting it in a bottle. And now I actually give him like a bowl of soup. I just puree it, you know, like pulse it, so it's still got some bits so he can kind of play around with it in his mouth. He loves it. Here he is doing his blueberry face. You say, hi, everybody. I'm eating blueberries. He loves blueberries. Okay, thank you so much. You guys have a wonderful day. Drink your broth. Make your chicken soup. Let me know if you have any questions or comments. I'm here for anything. AIMEE'S.com. That's where you can find me. Bye.